Welcome back, everybody. So today we are going to be talking about pensions and the bond market and everything else in between. Now, for full disclosure, I do not have any qualifications. I am not a financial advisor. If you are looking for pension advice or anything like that, please seek professional financial advice. Do not listen to me on YouTube. But I just want to highlight to you just some things what I am currently seeing in pensions, well, in pension portfolios, obviously the pension market in general, and the reason why I personally do not have a pension. So let's basically get into the different types of pensions. So you basically have public and private pensions. Now, these will be very, very different dependent on your jurisdiction. So if you're in the US, if you're in the UK, if you're in Australia, Europe, or wherever, you typically have public and private pensions. And you have different types of structures for private pensions. Now, in the UK, you have something called defined benefit pensions and defined contribution pensions. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of every single different type of pension type, but relatively they might be structured slightly differently, but ultimately they're all kind of doing the same thing. What basically is that when you come up to retirement and when you have a pension, you are basically guaranteed a certain level of income. So that income is promised to you in retirement, or when you reach retirement, you will be given a certain level of income every single month when you are in retirement. Now, the reason why I don't have a pension is because I don't think that I will have a pension when it comes to retirement. Now, I know it might sound a little bit of a scary thing, but it's basically just simple maths where you need a lot of people in the workforce who basically contribute to a pension, what ultimately funds the people at the top of the pyramid. You do not necessarily want a top-heavy pyramid where there's not that many people who are contributing to a pension every single month, and we have a aging demographics where they basically need to be financed in retirement. And obviously we have a lot of entitlements. Now in the US, the entitlement number is absolutely massive. I'll put that on the screen now. I'll put the UK on. I'll put Europe or whatever. I'll put a lot of countries on the screen so you can kind of see. Now, the narrative is that you will have a pension in retirement, and I don't think that they will be able to meet these obligations basically on the basis of demographics and also on the basis of how the portfolios are currently structured. So majority of pensions, again, you'll have to look into this yourself and obviously look at your own pension. But basically, a lot of these pensions are typically structured 60-40, meaning 60% equities, 40% bonds. Now, if you've been following me for quite a while, you'll realize that the price of bonds have been going down significantly over the past 2 to 3 years. And again, we can get into the ins and outs of why that all is, but basically what you need to be aware of is that a lot of these pensions will be significantly underwater, and they will be desperately needing these bond prices to go up. Now, again, if you can imagine that if you are a large pension fund and you are seeing that 40% of your portfolio is going down in value significantly, you might want to reallocate that to something else. You might want to reallocate it more into equities. Now, depending on when they do that, obviously, if they start to sell out of bonds at the moment and they start to go into equities and we see that reversal, that is not necessarily going to be that good for pension funds. So pension funds typically like very steady growth and obviously very, very, very predictable revenues, because obviously they need to predict them revenues going forward. And there's another reason why I personally don't like pensions. And there's so many financial advisors, specifically in the UK. And again, I know I might be getting a little bit of heat for this, but I don't think many people actually understand it. So, and this is the reason why I want to talk about it. So a lot of people in the UK basically say that you can contribute to your pension tax-free because you can contribute it before tax, meaning before obviously you get taxed, you can put it into your pension, blah, 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 happy days. And then you can touch your pension in retirement and off you go into the sunset, blah, 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 blah. Now, and the reason why I do not really like it is because they do not disclose about the income tax. So yeah, so you can contribute to the pension tax-free, but you cannot withdraw the money tax-free because you will be subject to income tax. And this is something what a lot of people don't even know, is that you are subject to income tax on your pension. Now, granted, in 20, 30, 40 years or whenever you retire, the income tax brackets or the rules around pensions or the retirement age or anything else can massively, massively change. Now, you can imagine if you are a government and you know that a lot of people are entitled to these entitlements, you might want to change some of the rules because you know that you cannot meet these obligations, and a lot of people are not really going to be that happy about it. So you might raise the retirement age, You might raise the income tax level. You might do a whole bunch of other stuff to basically mitigate your entitlements. So this is one of the biggest reasons why I personally do not like pensions. And I probably spent well in excess of about 6 weeks studying pensions and getting into the weeds and the demographics and how they all work. And you know, when you start to run the numbers and when you start to do the maths, it does not look good. So I personally stayed away from a pension. And obviously I do save for retirement. I'm not stupid, right? Even though I have no qualifications or anything like that, but I do save for retirement, but just in a different way. And again, you can have different types of businesses, you can have different types of assets what produce a certain level of income or whatever. But again, the rules can obviously change as time starts to pass. And when you start to look at the amount of entitlements a lot of these programs have, I can imagine that the rules are going to change because they do not have the demographics to basically support the aging population. And this is just something what I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to, and they don't even give it thought, because they are basically contributing to a pension every single month. And they are basically thinking, oh, well, I'll be fine in retirement. Where I am just trying to highlight that when you start to dig into the numbers, it does not look that attractive. Now, granted, can I be wrong? Absolutely. Can the rules change? Absolutely. And something what I think is very, very interesting is that if pensions started to, let's say, allocate to Bitcoin, because I know some people think that I talk about Bitcoin a hell of a lot, but what I'm kind of getting at is that it might seem like pension funds don't need Bitcoin and Bitcoin needs pension funds, but it is pretty much the other way around, because when you start to look at these entitlements, when you start to look at how much needs to be paid out over the next, let's say, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, it does not look good. So again, you need assets what basically protect you against currency debasement and obviously inflation. And obviously you could use Bitcoin, gold, or whatever as a hedge. But again, you still need something what kind of produces income to basically fund a lot of these liabilities. So I am aware that obviously me talking about these topics might rustle a few feathers. And I'm also aware as well, it is very, very dependent on the jurisdiction. It's very dependent on your age, where you are currently. Obviously, if you're coming up to retirement, you'll be absolutely fine. But I think if you're 25, 30, 35, I don't really think that these entitlements will get paid, just on the basis of maths, really. There's some Wikipedia pages what talk about the pension crisis, and there's a lot of reports from Morgan Stanley, from Bloomberg, basically just highlighting how large these entitlements are. And again, I am aware, I am basically giving you the executive summary of everything what I've kind of been studying and learning about pensions and demographics, and do you mean just the sheer size of these entitlements? Because again, because obviously there's YouTube channels out there who devote their entire channel just talking about pensions, but ultimately a lot of them are basically sales pages or funnels to basically get you to contribute to a pension what they basically manage, so they can get the fees at the back end of it. So this is basically what the financial economy basically thrives off, is fees. So, you know, there's a lot of people who will say, oh, this pension's better, it has a better mix, in terms of asset allocation, blah, 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 you should be contributing to this pension, not that one. But again, what a lot of people don't even realize is looking at the fees, because the fees compound over time. And this is not necessarily on a pension, this is even on a ETF. You should be paying very, very close attention to the annual interest payments, to the annual fees, because these can massively compound over time, and you'll be so surprised about how much you'll be paying in fees over 20, 30, 40 years. Again, a lot of people don't even pay attention to it, and they are not even educated on it. I mean, granted, yeah, they are shown it, but they don't understand the impact of compound interest when it comes from a fee perspective of what that could mean for your overall retirement, your pension, etc. And this is why fees are so important. Now, hopefully I haven't rustled too many feathers talking about this subject. I can kind of imagine that I probably got a few things wrong. If you do think I've got something wrong, please let me know in the comment section down below, because I will read it, I will reply to you. But I just really needed to do this video, basically highlighting a lot of the problems what I see with pensions, and the reasons why I personally don't contribute to a pension is because of obviously the reasons what I've highlighted. Now, granted, you can get into a lot of specifics, into a lot of detail around pensions and the reasons why pensions can be really, really good. But typically the people who are saying to you the reasons why pensions are really, really good are typically coming from an older demographic. They are not necessarily looking at the demographics. They're not necessarily doing the maths. And why would they? Because the people who are typically promoting pensions and talking about pensions get paid on the back end of it. So again, this is the reason why I personally stay away from them. Now, granted, I might be massively wrong with my overall assessment, but I personally feel very, very comfortable in terms of managing my own future rather than paying somebody else to do it. So that is just me. But anyway, I know I might have rustled a few feathers with this video. And yeah, if you think I've got anything wrong, please let me know in the comments down below. And to the 4 people who keep on supporting me, I hope you're having a lovely day and take care. Bye-bye. I'll show you where I am, by the way. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool. You know, reading my books, listening. And again, I will do a video on books. I do promise, because so many people ask me about books. But anyway, take care. Bye, 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 bye.